Hi folks, just wanted to touch upon something here. But before I look at that, I want to mention that, you know, uh, last episode I was discussing, you know, Secret Wars 8 and the first appearance chronologically in the MCU where the symbiote costume was mentioned, and trying to explain that in real time and in real life and what was actually appearing on the newsstands months before Secret Wars number 8, which some people may mistakenly think is the first appearance of the symbiote costume, actually isn't. It is in the MCU chronology. Sorry. So chronologically, it is the first appearance, but not really the actual physical first appearance in the real world, if you get what I mean. And I was explaining that there were several titles that showed the symbiote costume. Amazing Spider-Man, Peter Parker, The Spectacular Spider-Man, Marvel Team Up, and I said this one here, and then I got confused in the video because what I began to say was this came a little bit later, which in fact it did in '85. That's how I felt about it in '85. But then I made the mistake that I tried to warn people not to make in some other previous videos when it came to dating covers. Saw the '84 and assumed April. It was April '84, and I said, "Oh, I thought, oh well, that it came right around the same time." No, it didn't. It came like a year later. This newer title, but it was also at that time. Uh, this was actually after Secret Wars number 8, but at this time, the costume was just beginning to act strange on its own and stuff, and things would soon change. I guess they were trying to figure out a way to get rid of something that perhaps they were starting to think was maybe not such a great idea, or it would stimulate sales if they brought back the old costume, whatever. But anyway, that was that. I just wanted to mention that and clear that up, why I may have seemed confused when I was describing something there, because I felt something. I was like, because I was, from memory from that time, I was, you know, I was like, oh yeah, I was inclined to believe that, yeah, this came later, like the following year in '85. Like my intuition was telling me that, but then I saw that shit on the cover and it threw me off. Anyway, but what I wanted to get around to here is, I don't know if you remember in some of the on the board episodes, I had recreated this tribute to Jim Starlin, and this is the cover. Well, first of all, this is a shrunken down photocopy of an actual work that is actually quite large. Um, I don't know, it's like 23 by 15 or some. It's big. I got it rolled up over there, and with a bunch of other original work. But this was a shrunken down version, and it's one of the color versions I use. But this is still a shrunken down version from a colored 11 by 17, whatever, yada yada yada. Just my tribute to Jim Starlin and issue 29. And I want to say something about this: the dynamism, dynamic quality. Fuck. Anyway, um, the dynamic quality and the I don't know, the sense of energy that was that this drawing, kind of encompassed. Something that I think they tried to follow up on later on. They tried to recapture it and keep it going. They knew they were onto something here for sure, for sure. Um, oh, what could I say? When I was doing this, when I was doing the original pen and inks, and I'd later color one of the photocopies of the black and white, right? I'd color over that, not over the original. Leave the original. Apparently, the feathering in the detailing was done with crow quill pens. Before I mentioned them, I said pro quill or something, but it's crow quill pens. I didn't get too elaborate with the feathering. I started to in this portion of the arm, and then I'm like, look, you got the structure, you're good to go. Leave it. So I did leave it, and it might be an idea to go back and look at one of the black and white copies, and then consider using some nibs to tickle up some feathering to see how that comes across. I really kind of like that tight inking kind of thing. Which brings me to something I want to show you here, not concerning so much the inks, but the way they were trying to, reproduce that energy again. See, right here, a little bit later, I think we're looking at sorry about the glare, folks, but we're talking 79, right? And they came out with this Marvel Spotlight on Captain Marvel from 79, number 1 here. And on the cover here, you got who I think is Jay Allen and McLeod on the inks doing this cover. Wait a minute, though. Let's take a look inside. Inside, right, the pencils are by Pat Broderick and Bruce Patterson doing the inks. And I always kind of like this tight kind of ink quality. I really did. Like, what I mean by tight inks, I think it's more like fine-lined inks that really impress me. Like, look at in Cap's hair and stuff like that. The embellishments there, let's see. This kind of thing. I just think it looks cool. I don't know. It just looks cool. It reminds me, and there's Dionysus or whatever, right? It just reminds me. I think there's a shot of. Where is she? Elysia is in here too, I think. Oh yeah, there she is, right there. There she is, in that garb. But there's another picture. There's a good one of Cap flying through the air. That tight ink quality, I really think that's cool. I don't know. Just a close-up of Cap's face there. But I appreciate that, yeah. That's Patterson on the inks. Inks over Broderick. Another cool thing about this is just as an aside. Look at this splash, which is pretty freaking cool, I'd say. Right? Look at this. You got Rick Jones there in the space gear and Drax the Destroyer up in the top corner there. But in this, you got, I think this dude here. It's okay. This is just to me one of the coolest names. One of the coolest names. Being wait a minute. Is this this is Thanos's recreate. Okay, anyway. But no, this one of the coolest names, Stellarex. Stellarex. I just thought, wow, that's got to be like one of the coolest names ever. But I mean, coolest names, coolest character, I don't know. But always loved that name. But anyway, the point was that, they were obviously aware of the power of Starlin's cover of issue 29 back in the day, and they tried to recreate it. But if you look, as good as this is, and it's nothing wrong with it, it's quality in that, but it doesn't quite seem to have the same energy. It doesn't have the same energy, it's not as realistic, not to say that it has to be hyper-realistic for it to work, but I don't know, it just seems dull and a little, I don't know what to say. I'm wondering, I look at this picture and I know I've seen, look, I'm just saying, I know I've seen pictures of Arnold back in the day, 72, 73, in this pose, okay? It's not so much a competition pose, but something you do at the end of a show, just to put your hands up to say, hey, you know, right, whatever. A champion's pose kind of thing. Not really a pose per se to show off. But, what I'm wondering is if this was referenced. I don't care. You still have to do the work, but I'm saying that could be the reason why it's so dynamic. Not really sure, though. I doubt the legs were referenced, right? But maybe it's just that good. It's a difference between artists. I don't really know. But they definitely wanted to recapture that energy in the pose for sure. You can see that. But this one doesn't. It's just not quite the same energy. And actually, there's another example right here. Okay, here's the cover of Nova #1 from 76, right? From 76. And this is the back page of actually a True Believer reprint issue kind of thing, right? There you go. Right? Where they show Nova on the cover. 1976. And this is actually John Buscema doing this. But even Big John doesn't quite capture it. Now, was it because superheroes wasn't really his thing? Or I don't know. Whatever. But he doesn't quite pull it off. It's there. It's the same pose. And you can see they're going for that same kind of, this kind of spacey kind of feel to it, right? And going for that same energy in the pose. But again, it just doesn't quite come off the way this guy here did. I just wanted to point that out because I thought that was kind of interesting. But yeah, I just wanted to pay tribute to Jim Starlin, and perhaps one of my favorite Bronze Age covers. Don't get me wrong, there's so many, but this was definitely one of my favorites. I was thinking about this before. I've got 2 stacks of things going on. One is a slush pile of my actual original works that I want to bring up in the Self-Indulgent series and bring those drawings up into full realization, right? I don't know, as a project, what the hell? For shits and gigs, right? But now another pile is building up beside it. It is reference ideas for things that I'd like to pay tribute to, just like this, but for recreation work, right? It doesn't really pay or anything. It's just so much fun to do. But it all takes time. And yeah, there's quite a few that I have on the go that I want to do to bring up just for whatever. I find that you do, that's, how do I, back in the day, that was something I'd do a lot of when I was about 13. Trying to recreate what I was actually seeing at the time. I figured if I could get it close, then I was on the right track in my education as an illustrator, as an artist, right? And doing this now is interesting too. You feel that same kind of energy, right? Kind of emulating those who you appreciate, those the artists you kind of look up to or aspire to. But now as an adult doing it, it's a different kind of energy, but the level is the same, but of course time has gone by and the skills are different too, so the outcomes are different, right? But still a lot of fun, and there'll be more to come. But what I'd rather do is just show them as they come up and not so much announce them before they do. So we'll just stick with that and see what comes up.